Hello, which country are you from? Can you hear me and see me? Okay, so it was a request to analyze a game between Joseph Blackburne and Karl Schlechter from King's Gambit. Okay, so I will try to do it now. So e4, e5, f4. So it was two games between Blackburn and Schlechter in this position. In both of these games, Joseph Blackburn won. So in one game, e takes f4 was played, bishop c4 line. Only question which year it was. It was later. It was later. It was 1898, and in first game was bishop c5. So we can start with bishop c5, decline at queen's gambit. Another possible without taking to play d5 if d takes e5 a4 Falkbeer gambit. So but in 1984 Karl Schlechter decided to play bishop c5, knight f3 b6 and bishop c4. Well, white has choice now. For example, if c4 c3 with idea to fight for the centrum to prepare d4. According to theory, the best for black is bishop b6. And only after b4, take on d4 and play bishop g4 with good contraplay against white center. So next move which black are planning are knight e7, knight c6, castle, d5 probably. Of course, depends what white is playing, but for example, this bishop e3, knight e7. And black is ready for d5, and if e5, knight f5, something like this. So bishop c4 also. Knight c3 it's possible here, flexible move, because somewhere bishop can go to b5, especially if black plays knight c6. But black can play knight f6, and if takes, black has choice. Castle is possible with a good compensation. Also, queen d4 is possible, and just bishop b6. White has strange knight on d2, so compensation must be good. So usually white plays bishop c4 in this position, however, knight c6, d3, and now a lot of theory. Black has many moves, so bishop g4 is possible, a6 is possible, many other moves are possible. Okay, so bishop c4 was played, knight f6, d3, knight c6, and again white can play knight c3, main theoretical line. For example, if bishop g4, knight a4 is one of possibility. And now probably the best for black is bishop b6. I remember theory if bishop f3, queen takes f3, knight d4, queen d1. Now b5 is bad move because after bishop takes f7, knight takes c5 and f takes e5, white is clearly better. Because if knight goes, castle and c3 is coming with strong attack. So in my opinion, bishop b6 is the best. But okay, c3 was played, totally different line. I have seen many games of Joseph Blackburn. He liked the structure from like now it's modern in Italian games to have d3 and c3 pawn and play this flexible position, especially against knight on c6. He's knight is quite restricted, but usually more popular to do it without pawn on f4, for example. knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, d3, bishop c5, c3. Sorry, knight c3 is also possible, but c3 now very popular. And now if black wants to play d5, they need to play castle firstly, because if immediately d5, it's very bad for black. So if black wants to black can play d6, black can play a6, a5 also. But if they want to play d5, they need to play castle first, and only now d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, and now queen b3, it's not harmless anymore for black. It's harmless for black because knight b6 is possible. F7 square is already protected, so usually white plays knight bd2 here, or rook e1, or a4. For example, rook e1, bishop g4, h3, bishop h5. So this is some kind like modern theory. Knight bd2, knight b6, bishop b3, queen takes d3, knight takes e5, queen takes queen f5, knight f3, rook a d8, g4, rook e2. Many games was played from this position. But okay, so in game which we are considering, it wasn't Italian, it was King's Gambit, although declined. King's Gambit. Another game was accepted, Queen's Gambit, with e takes f4, bishop c4. We can consider it later. So, but d6, Ola. So c3, castle, very natural. b4, bishop b6, a4. And now what we have, so white played a4, white has quite obvious threat to play a5 and take the bishop, so looks like black should play a6 or a5, but okay, if a5 b5, it's dangerous for pawn e5, so white is taking the pawn. Okay, not so clear, but at least white is pawn up. But interesting that black probably can just ignore this threat. So it's question how strong is threat to play a5 at all. So black totally can consider e takes f4. It's quite interesting choice here and very concrete choice. Because now if a5 bishop e3, so black has pawn up and they are ready to play d5 or knight e5. If bishop takes f4, d5 is coming, and white has quite obvious problem with his king in the center. Okay, this variation can be continued. For example, if this, this, a5, rook e8, king d2, but looks like very good for black. Also, necessary to understand what black should play. If bishop f5, I can probably take, but just take, and what to do? The problem, after rook takes a8, queen takes d3, knight is not protected anymore. Of course, here black can consider rook a8 immediately. It's totally possible, and again white has problem with his king. After king d2, knight takes d5. It's possible with the same idea, also possible knight e7. With the idea to take with knight. Again, Rook e2 is coming, so if rook a7, bishop g4 is possible, something like this. So e takes f4 at least was very serious alternative. If king f1, at least black has bishop e3 with an excellent game, because white cannot utilize pin. If queen e2, bishop f5 is coming, black is winning. So king d2, bishop f5, what else? If queen c2, rook a d8, so this position. If d4, just bishop takes d4. Bueno, difícil, pero el negro tiene un ataque muy fuerte. Blanco tiene problemas con su rey, entonces E por F era la opción muy seria para las negras, pero Carl Schlechter play A6 tranquilamente, F por E, D por E. Tampoco es clara decisión. Por razones posicionales, caballos en C6 es pasivo contra peón de C3. Entonces, si negro quiere tomar en E5, más lógico tomar con caballo, cambiar este caballo y este juego bastante cómodo para las negras, porque blanco tiene problemas con su rey. Aunque blanco tiene ventaja, ahora tiene casilla F3 para su dama. Probablemente eso es lo más lógico para preparar alfil F3. También caballo G4 es muy interesante, con amenaza caballo F2, también con idea tomar con caballo y después tomar con caballo. So I explain in English that d takes e5 is not obvious because black can exchange knights, because knight. Bueno, peones fuertes, pero peones negras también es fuertes. Bueno, esta posición. Negro puede jugar, por ejemplo, caballo E8 para preparar caballo D6. Es una opción. Después F5. Vienes. No es única opción. Negro tiene muchas opciones. Pero caballo G4 a mí me gusta. ¿Y qué hacer? Caballo F2. Si alfil G5, bueno, dama E8. Amenaza caballo F2. Sí. Es juego cómodo. Pero Schlechter jugó tranquilamente D por E, también es posible. Alfil 5, estoy seguro que alfil 5 es lo mejor para el blanco. I'm not sure that that G5 is for white. In my opinion, more natural for white to play queen to prepare bishop e3. So bishop g5 is possible, but in future. So it's not so flexible to play bishop g5 immediately. But well, in the game, everything is good for white, but probably not because bishop g5 is so good, probably because Schlechter played too passive in this position. Bueno, depende. Es posición muy concreta. Blanco tiene buena estructura, pero falta desarrollo y tiene problemas con su rey. Pero son factores buenos para las negras, son dinámicos. Entonces, negro debe jugar en manera bastante concreta. Schlechter no lo jugó y muy rápido él era en posición inferior. Por ejemplo, dama d6. dama d6 me parece como jugada dudosa. Mucho más natural h6, much more natural to play h6. Immediately try to understand what will do white bishop. Bishop f6, queen takes f6, so obviously it's acceptable for black. So if bishop g3, g5. So knight takes g5 doesn't look promising because white has no development for such attack, and black can just play queen d6 to prepare knight h7. So white has no enough compensation for the piece. Okay, bishop f2 looks strange somehow. Maybe possible, however, but I think this position should be good for black. Or for example, knight g4 check, king e2 only move, not allow knight e3. So white is preparing for h3. So king g7, black is preparing for f5. Immediately king g7 was possible as well, but in that case white can play rook e1 to prepare king g1. Artificial and rocky. So knight g4 probably it's more precise. It is king g7. Now f5 black wants. If h3, I don't know if f5 is possible. Maybe even this is possible to consider such a move. This, something like this. Okay, maybe it's not correct. Maybe white can just play king e1 and black has no real threats. But okay, so h3, knight f6. And black is ready to play knight h5, knight f4, or knight e8, knight d6 to prepare f5. So it must be good for black. If white plays bishop g3, black choice again. So knight g4 is possible, but queen e2, it's not clear. If knight e3, knight a3, or bishop b3. So probably the simplest way is knight h5, this idea to exchange this bishop. White cannot take on e5, because if take with bishop, g4 is coming and white is losing the piece. If knight takes e5, knight takes g3, knight takes c6, black has many good options. Probably the simplest is queen f6, and white is losing material because mating threat. So h6 was quite strong move, and black has a good position. But queen d6 was played, and also now h6 is logical, but Schlechter played knight e7, and now so black played several moves which were not so concrete, and now white has quite pleasant position because his pawn structure in the center is stronger than pawn structure of black. So bishop b3, and tactically it works well. For example, if rook d8 looks like logical attack this pawn, but black has weakness f7 pawn, and white can play knight c4, very concrete play, queen d3, queen takes d3, rook takes d3, knight takes b6, c takes b6, knight takes e5, rook takes c3, bishop takes f7, king f8, and now, for example, bishop a2 is possible if there is nothing better. If castle, knight c6, black can consider. So bishop a2, and white is prepared for castle, and black has obvious problem with his king on f8. b5, but in which moment b5? So he played bishop b3, where you want to play b5, with white b5. With black, hardly possible because bishop on b6. So where you want to play b5. At move 10, so here b5. Here b5 certainly not good because after a takes b5, white cannot play with pawns, so they need to take with bishop, but it hardly can be good idea. This structure much worse for white than with pawn a4 b4. So this exchange surely I would not recommend. Black has many good ideas. For example, knight a5 even possible to attack white bishop. If bishop h3, c6, if bishop f8, queen takes f8, bishop c4, takes. Okay, b5, no. This, if white can take with pawn, okay, it's different story. It can be good and then take on e5, but surely not in this position. But okay, as I explained, Schlechter played several bad or dubious move, and now after bishop b3, white is really better because knight c4 is coming, and black should do something. He played rook d8. It's possible, but as I explained it, it's not totally good. So bishop e6. He is fighting with knight c4, but now Joseph Blackburne spoiled his structure. Bishop takes f6. He played knight c4 immediately was possible as well, but after bishop takes c4, bishop takes c4, knight g6, black is preparing h6, and it's playable position for black too, so I would prefer white anyway. Bishop on c4 is strong. Now bishop d3 is not weakness because it is well protected. So bishop takes f6, he play. Black cannot play obviously on b3 because it would be good positionally, not spoiled pawn structure, but white is winning a piece after bishop takes e7. Is it? Maybe not winning, just a moment. I'm not sure. Bishop takes d1, bishop takes d6, bishop takes f3 maybe. White is not winning the piece, because if bishop takes f8, bishop takes g2 is coming. So probably bishop takes b3 was the best try in this position. Okay, but maybe there is positional problem. So black has no tactical problem, but positionally it's not so good. White can just take on f3, and after c takes d6 to play knight c4. But still unclear. Of course, after bishop c7, knight e3, white is clearly better. Knight is coming to d5, but black has bishop a7, and knight takes d6, hardly good idea because black will go rook d8. I don't know which rook. Okay, for example, this rook, and then they will take on d3 with more than sufficient contraplay. So white cannot take on d6. Because of this, after bishop a7, black has some time to prepare d5. So yes, so knight takes d6 is not good idea. Probably king e2 is the best idea, but okay, black can play rook d8, and this is playable position. Maybe more pleasant for white, but but not totally clear. Black can try to prepare d5 with f6 and then d5. Yes, it's good for white, but maybe better for white. But the question, how much better? If it's better, b5 is possible. But if b5, bishop c5 somehow. Okay, b5 is concrete. Now b5 is possible. But anyway, it's not so easy. Takes bishop c5, for example. Okay, white can play this, for example, to prepare rook takes a8 and d4. So not so easy. h4, h5, no. So white needs to play in the center and queen's flank, in my opinion. Okay, so bishop b3 was possible, but not so pleasant. So g takes f6 played Karl Schlechter and knight c4. So now obviously position is quite good for black. They are ready to exchange bishop and to make castle. Okay, probably it was the best for black, just allow this. So if this, if castle, something like rook ac8, try. Now they can take and take, so castle immediately it's not possible. If bishop takes e6, okay, black can improve the structure. So probably queen d7 was the best. Of course, white is not forcing to do something concrete, so queen e2 is possible, for example. If knight g6, g3. And if bishop g4, h3, it's possible. Black cannot take on h3 because queen h2. I hope, at least. So this. And black has no time to take knight because h7 mate is hanging out. But probably black can try to do something here. Queen takes c3 or rook fd8 immediately. Probably this is not so clear position at all. I don't know. For example, to play this, if check, king f8. So also necessary to calculate. White can take firstly, now to play h3 or just castle simply. Now white has better structure, or queen e3, for example. Well, castle is normal. Because h3, bishop h3, not so clear. White can input this, and queen h3, but anyway, this. Now check. It's important. And then black will take knight with check. So it doesn't work for white at all. So if queen h2 to play only without knight takes b6, but this, and now black has choice. Rook fd8 or queen takes c3 check. And this position not so clear for me. For example, king e2. Okay. Now, however, maybe this is very strong. Yes, this is winning move. Because rook fd8 not possible anymore. And after queen takes a1, king e2. So rook fd8 is correct. But okay, what to do now? So Black has many threats. I will come back in 5 minutes. Rook FDA. Okay, so also queen takes e4 needs to be considered, but if queen takes e4, king d2 and king king d2 only move, but now rook fd8 with check, and queen takes f3, and pawn is attacked. King d2 only move because if not king d2, black will take knight with check. So rook d8, queen takes f3, queen takes h. Okay, queen takes h7 and queen takes f7. It doesn't work because rook d3 is coming and black is winning. At least they are winning pawn. Okay, so this variation is not good at all Yeah, h3 is a risky move, yes. So probably instead of h3, just take and castle. And this position objectively should be better for white. Also we can check how clear this, because black has some tactics. For example, if this bishop takes f3 is coming and rook takes c3, so maybe things are not so simple as well. Queen d4 check, and then queen takes c3, so it's not end of variation. Black has weakness on f6, however, so for example this bishop c4. Maybe it's good for white, but it's a quite long variation. But it was question after rook fd8. Okay, queen takes e4 looks like so queen d7, queen e2 we consider it. Knight g6, g3, bishop g4. Also, white can try to play this castle long, totally possible. King is quite safe here, and now h3 is well prepared, probably. This is good idea. But okay, we were considered after rook fd8 was proposition to play knight d6, but knight d6 hardly good, because queen e3 check, black is taking everything with checks, so this is too much. So king d1 only move, black can take with check, king c2. Okay, white has no serious threats at all, so black can just play rook d7 or queen e2 firstly, after king b1, now rook d7, so this idea not good. So here probably, okay, queen takes e4 maybe more simple, but if in this position, if we have this position at the board, what is the best? Okay, this queen f7, okay, anyway, black at least has excellent contraplays. I will take on c3, or rook e3 check is coming, so but maybe rook d1, rook e3 check is important, because if rook takes f3, rook d7, it's dangerous somehow. Also probably it's not made after king f8. So in this position, what is the best for white? Not so clear to understand, because white has many hanging pieces. Knight fd2 probably. Maybe this. But it's unclear. Queen takes c3, for example, is possible. Or queen takes g3. Okay, this variation is far from forcing. Probably for white is long castle is the best choice. And now h3 is prepared, and white is better. Okay, but anyway, game after queen d7 is more complicated than after bishop takes c4. So bishop takes c4, now white can take positionally with bishop, and to have a good bishop and good position, obviously. Probably black should try f5, but okay, d takes c4, it's very concrete move, because white has idea to push c5, and for black it's not so easy to prevent it. So they can try to play queen c6 now, attack the pawn, and if queen e2, if queen c2, bishop e3 is possible, and bishop is free at least. If queen e2, queen e6 is possible to prevent c5 because bishop is hanging and prepare c7, c5. But of course, white can play this, give the pawn, but have excellent pressure. But okay, so black can try to defend this position at least. So they have pawn up. Okay, compensation is totally enough. Bishop c2 and then knight h4. Okay, bishop c2, knight d5, sorry. So probably knight h4 immediately. It's the best. But okay, it was at least try to do something because now c5 is coming. If black plays c5, okay, many ideas white has. For example, rook d7 simply possible and take on b7. Also a5, bishop a7, b5. It's quite interesting idea. So white is better. It's only question how much better. But Schlechter played rook d8. He allowed his opponent everything what he wants, and now black is playing without bishop. This is very bad. Okay, they can try to play b6, but of course this endgame doesn't look good for black because of white can just take and rook a1. Black will lost some material. So, but after c6, bishop is out of play. So he can go to c7, but what? And also g3. So firstly, knight was restricted when he was on c6. He was restricted with pawn on c3. Now he is restricted with pawn on g3. So black is totally losing. Knight d2, knight c4, knight e3. So black cannot do anything. Bishop c7, rook d1. Okay, white has many plans how to improve. Yes, 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 yes. Like Winter Capablancas. King f8. Okay, probably f5 was last chance somehow to prepare e4, but anyway, it should be losing, but at least it is some fight. For example, if knight takes, and e4, and black wants to play bishop e5, probably not so easy. If pawn takes, again e4 is coming, and black wants to play bishop e5, for example. But okay, bishop c2, probably bishop e5, king d2. White wants to take on e4. If knight d5, just take, and bishop b3, and probably it's enough for win, but at least necessary to calculate this. Probably black can survive. Bishop takes d5, bishop takes a5, king d4, takes, king f6, something like this. Okay, maybe white is winning here, but it's not totally. Okay, maybe this is winning, however, because this king h3, king is too far from the pawn, so should be. But okay, how to win still? Because if king d6, bishop b4. If c6, bishop c7, so probably it is drawn. Of course, this variation is far from forcing, but but at least black is fighting somehow. So probably rook d1 wasn't the most technical way to improve the position. So white could play something else because at the moment black has no threat. So bishop c2 was possible, for example, to play prophylactic moves against idea f5 and e4, and only then try to do his action. Also possible to exchange knights and then to do something what Blackburne did. So f5 was interesting attempt, and I don't know if white has win here. At least white should calculate very concrete variations. And maybe here after knight d5 takes c4 is stronger. Maybe c4 is correct. Because if d takes c4, bishop takes e4. So e3 is only move, king takes e3, d takes c4 now. But anyway, king d2 is coming. And black has no defense against bishop e4. So probably this is a winning way for white. So c4 is strong. Okay, probably Blackburne calculated this and Schlechter as well. But Schlechter played king f8, so king d3, now it's total domination because f5, e4 is stopped. So king d8, it's black is trying to defend c8 square, but now bishop c7 is totally dead. Knight f5, knight g8, okay, knight takes f5, also losing. So no moves anymore. So such a positional win for Joseph Blackburne. Okay, and now we can consider another games between Blackburne and Schlechter. For example, this bishop c4. Okay, main theory is knight f6, knight c3. Anatoly Karpov played bishop b4 here, and after e5, d5, bishop b5, c6, and after this, 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 rook c8, he won very quickly. World Junior Chess Championship. But of course, white can try something better. So instead of taking so many pawns, much more logical to play d4 here, with the idea to take on f4 with bishop. If knight c6, knight f3, for example, white is ready for bishop takes f4. These positions promising for white because not so clear what black will do with his king. Not. Is Jabala? It's possible. If he is interested, he can write me. Okay, so d5 played Schlechter, and Blackburne took with pawn. Okay, so the main theory take with bishop here, and knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4, knight f3, after c6, bishop c4 is more precise. idea, this, castle, e5, knight h5. So I remember that bishop c4 was stronger than bishop b3 for some reason, probably with idea to have bishop e2 here. Bishop e2. Okay, so a lot of theory. E takes d5, not so strong according to theory. So queen h4 is correct, although bishop d6 is possible as well, something like this. Queen h5, also queen h6 is possible to have f4 pawn better protected. So queen h5, knight c3, knight e7, d4, bishop g4. It's possible, but probably a little bit premature. So normal move is castle. Now black wants to play bishop g4 or knight d7, knight f6, or knight d7, knight b6. So if knight e4, black can just take. Also knight g6 is possible. It's good position. So this position is more pleasant for black. Rook e8, for example. Also other moves are possible. But Schlechter played bishop g4. So he wants to play knight d7, but knight e4. So white immediately trying to attack f4 pawn. Why it is more easy for black? Because white has problem with his king. Black is prepared for castle. Or you mean this position? Okay. Why it is more easy? Good question, however. Because white needs to solve his problem with his king. And black already solved all of problems with his even knight d7 is possible. My idea to transfer a knight to e4. For example, king f2, knight f6, rook e1, bishop f5, or even for black, no problem. Okay, maybe nothing really dangerous for white as well if they will play c3, king g1, something. But for example, even b6, king g1, bishop b7, something like this, or b5. If black wants to have bishop on long diagonal. c3 probably. Also, white has his trumps, so queen b3, it's possible. White will manage to exchange queens, okay, but not so easy. For example, rook f e8, queen b3, queen c6. Still, knight d5 is coming. Okay, I don't know. So here it's big question. What is the best for black? Okay, probably this position, objectively more close to equality, but slightly more pleasant to play with black in my opinion because of some dynamic factors. But okay, if we imagine that king f2, rook e1, c3, and white totally consolidated, okay, its evaluation can be different. But okay, so bishop g4 he played, knight e4, knight takes d5. So now white could have same position. Okay, probably, although now black has idea to play knight c6 and to prepare castle long. It's logical because in that case pawn d6 will be well defended, and for black will be more easy to attack with f5, g5, something like this after long castle. After castle short, it's not so easy to attack with pawns from king. Although also possible to be considered even h6 with idea g5. So, because if bishop g3, f5 and f4. If bishop e3, black has no problem already with his pawn on d6 and they can improve position. So even this is possible. But okay, so he played bishop g4, knight e4, knight g6 is possible. It's probably white needs to play h3 and idea king g1, something like this. I don't know how good it for white. For example, castle, king g1, bishop f5. Knight takes, king takes, knight d7. Even took by e. Okay, I will write for myself. Okay, but Schlechter took, so Blackburne didn't take. He took, but he played queen e1, very original check. So queen e2 was possible, more natural. King d8. Something like this. Bishop f5 is possible, for example. I don't know what is this. So queen e1, what is advantage? Probably he wants to have queen a5 check after king d8. So he's fighting against this. So if king d8, check is possible. Knight c7, obviously not good because this knight b6 takes, bishop b3, and white is ready to take on f4. Black cannot defend this pawn, and this is fine for white. So bishop e6 he played, bishop b5 check. But okay, now knight e7 was an interesting. Una pregunta, ¿qué pregunta? Classes, sí, dando clases. No muy frecuentemente, pero dando clases. F3 attack. Sensation. Bishop f4, bishop f3, bishop d6, probably just knight c6. And this is very good for black because after this queen f2 not possible, rook is hanging, so if king g1 check. This is very unpleasant for white because d4 pawn is attacked. So knight e7 was logical idea. If queen f2, knight g6. Probably it was stronger than bishop e6 was what played Karl Schlechter. So bishop e6 and now bishop b5. Very logical. White is preparing for c4. White to play this white. Okay, white is fighting for initiative. Both fighting for initiative, but white played bishop b5. Now they are ready to push c4 and try to take on f4. There are questions, of course. For example, black can try king f8 here. It was possible. If c4, knight c7. White has problem with his bishop. But okay, with d5, bishop takes d5. Since queen a8 is not made. C takes, knight takes b5. Something like this is possible. And at the moment, pawn d5 is attacked, so not so easy for white to organize strong attack. For example, if a4, knight c7, bishop takes f4, queen takes d5. So rook d1 immediately not possible because queen c4 checks. So probably queen b4, something like this. White has compensation. Knight a6. But okay, after king f8, totally possible that white has some other moves. But what exactly? Queen e4 is not possible because knight e3 and black will take bishop with checks. So queen e4 is not possible, so maybe just bishop d3 is possible to prepare c4. But in that case, black can try bishop g4. So king f8 was possible, but Schlechter played knight d7, c4. And now, different story. Black cannot play knight c7 because after d5 they are losing the piece. Knight takes b5, d takes e6. So now knight e3 is only move. Takes, d5. So, forcing. Black should play with bishop and white is taking on e3 with check. d8. Okay. So black has no time to take on f3 because queen e7 check is coming. So king c7 logical, bishop takes d7. Online chess not often. And king f2. So we have this quiet position. And now queen f5. Black exchanged queens. Of course, black could play with queens. So queen f5 is possible, but not necessary. For example, f6, totally possible alternative. c5 at the moment is not threat because queen takes d5. So if black wants, they can try to play queen f5 later. But also they have idea to play g5, and if queen takes f6, rook ef8 and g4. So try to organize attack against white queen. For example, after rook f1, maybe g5. This. And g4 is coming. Okay, it's not only option for white. Okay, now looks like losing for white at all, but so. But at least, okay, probably h3 white should play something like this. But so anyway, black can. It's not necessary for black to hurry with exchange of queens. Black can try to do more active, something more active, for example, rook f8 to prepare g5 now. and try to organize active play against white king. Or even maybe g5. I don't know if it's really good, but maybe something like this. Okay, maybe this is rubbish, but who knows? Queen g7, rook f7, rook e7 is winning. Okay, but so rook hf8, this idea g5 is possible. But okay, queen f5, Schlechter exchange. Bishop g6, more natural looks bishop d7, at least for me. To have control b5 square, but he played bishop g6. Okay, knight b5. Now black is preparing for rook a8 and rook takes a2 if white is taken on a7. So Joseph Blackburne exchanged roots, and now we have this angle, which looks more promising for white, because white has active play to prepare before c5 in future, and what is contraplay for black, not so easy to understand. So they have extra pawn in king's land, but okay, f pawn hardly possible to play with f pawn, because always e6 square will be in trouble. So probably for black was better to play bishop d7, and here after rook e1 probably try to play rook e5, propose exchange structure, but okay, white can play knight f3, but if knight f3, black can take and play b5. So after rook takes e5, the situation is much more sharp, and black has contraplay. Aquí, aquí no estoy seguro, aquí probablemente igualdad, porque negro tiene contrajuego. Por supuesto, torre por e8 no es único, blanco tiene b3 o algo, pero negro tiene contrajuego, no creo que blanco tiene ventaja aquí. Pero alfil g6 es muy extraña, es mala jugada, y ahora cambio, y alfil en d7 controla b5 y f5. En g6 solo f5 no tiene perspectivas. Y ahora tácticamente no puede jugar esto, porque caballo b5 viene. Y negro pierde un peón sin la compensación bastante. Por lo menos lo me parece, se puede calcular esta línea, que probablemente negro tiene contrajuego bastante para tablas, pero no estoy seguro. Caballo de 8. ¿Qué es esto? Algo así, con idea rey b6. Si a4, alfil por a4. Bueno, no es forzado, por supuesto, pero variante bastante interesante. Caballo e8 también, probablemente mejor. Entonces, negro tiene problema con casilla b5 después de alfil g6, después de alfil d7 no tiene. Supongo que este final más o menos igual, especialmente si negro tiene idea jugar torre e5 en algún momento. Porque a estructura torre por D por E, esta estructura alfil puede ser mejor que caballo. Bueno, entonces cambiaron, torre E1. Alfil E4 tampoco es posible, por razón táctica. Alfil. Caballo B5 viene y blanco gana el peón. Aunque ahora alfil D3. Torre por y caballo B5. Y por lo menos caballo A3. Y después rey A3. Entonces no funciona. Entonces cambiaron y ahora este final is this endgame is very unpleasant for black because they have very bad bishop and they have no contraplay. White has plan with b4 c5 in future. Okay, so probably for black the best try to defend this position was to play a6 and then try to transfer bishop to d7 lo más pronto posible. Something like this. For example, this, and bishop on d7, if b4 to play b6 and try to defend this position. But he played bishop d3, b3, king d7, so again a6 was the best, with idea to prepare b5 with king d2, bishop f1. And after g3, bishop h3. Black has quite good chances to defend in this position. But king d7, so Schlechter doesn't understand that d7 square is for bishop, not for king. So he's playing with his bishop, he's waiting. Okay, probably he was thinking that position is totally safe, but knight f3. Okay. So white wants regroup their pieces, so king will go to d4 and c5 will be prepared. And this is unpleasant news for black. If f6 at some moment, knight can go back to d4 with idea knight e6. Yes, but white has a positional plan to play c5 at some moment. King d4, b4, c5. Black has no plan because to play with g or h pawn, it's nonsense. To play with f pawn, always knight d4, knight e6 is unpleasant. So black needs to defend passively. Only now he has bishop on d7, but okay, he not blocked with b6. So, but anyway, if imagine this position with king on d4 and pawn black on b6, it's not so easy because after exchange, white has strong passive pawn and good winning chances. But without exchange, even better for white. Knight d2, so he's provoking knight e4 or knight c4. He will provoke exchange, and so black has no contraplay. Knight b2. It's a little bit strange, but okay, he wants to play knight d3 probably. a5, a4. He wants to play a5 and then b7 pawn will be real weakness. So he played knight c4, excellent square b6 for his knight. So knight b6, king e4. So this endgame looks like very bad for black. g4. So now he is looking for weaknesses in king's flank. Knight he goes to pawn endgame, which is totally hopeless for black. King c7. Okay, why not g5, for example? Okay, maybe just takes and king e4, this pawn endgame. I'm afraid it can be winning for white. For example, king c7, king f4, king d7, h4, king e7, king g4. So white is ready to play h5 and this is bad news for black. So I don't think that black can survive here. So they need to wait, for example, h5 is coming. Black should take. King h6. Example. Okay, maybe not king h6, king g4. Yes, and this is Zugzwang. White wins. So he didn't play g6 because of this, or g5. h5, h6. So h6 was threat. So black played h6 because now h6 winning. But after h6, king simply goes back and white can use triangle and easily win. For example, this. Okay, white can just play d6. For example, king d8, king d5, king d7, c6, king c5. Okay, so what else they played? Are there any questions? Is it everything okay with my stream? Please write something in chat. Bishop e2 he played. Blackburne. Favorite line of Grishchuk. Bishop b4. Castle. If knight d5, the best for black is this, and knight d4. If takes, queen g5. Knight g4 is only movement. Queen takes d5. Black is okay. After castle, castle, knight d5. Now black can do the same. Black can take and to play knight d4 because white cannot take on e5. This is totally equal position. Schlechter played bishop e7, bishop g5. Okay, maybe more flexible for white to play something like c3, not hurry with bishop g5. And try to play reverse at Philidor with two bishops advantage. h6, bishop h3, okay. Maybe c3 it's more promising against knight on c6, and now g5 and knight h5 doesn't work because knight takes e5. It's important. If bishop takes e2, knight takes c6 is coming. So after c3, black should play something else, and probably white can try for some advantage. But they exchanged pieces and agreed for draw in this position. Okay, what else? So d4, knight g5, rare move. So the most popular line is castle, and now bishop c5 is Max Lange attack. Or black can take rook e1. If knight c3, Nachtanson gambit, it's black can just take. Idea for white is to take. This is idea. Now white has attack. But black can simply take with knight and play bishop e7. And they are ready for d5 or castle. And objectively, white has no enough compensation for the pawn. So rook e1, d5, takes, knight c3, queen d7. Other moves are possible, of course. This bishop e7, bishop g5, castle. This is recommendation of modern theory, and after bishop d7, black is totally okay. If rook takes e4, bishop e7, knight takes d4, f5 is possible. This is idea of queen d7. So now rook f4 is only move, and black can just castle with good position. Okay, maybe queen h5 is possible as well. g6, knight takes c6, and there is white has some compensation for exchange. Okay, but knight g5 was played, knight e5 played Karl Schlechter. Another possibility is to play d5 immediately after e takes d5. Now knight e5. Knight takes d5 is dangerous because castle, and with idea knight takes f7 and queen f3 check. But knight e5 is totally possible. But okay, he played immediately knight e5. Queen takes d4. Okay, bishop b3 can be considered like alternative with idea to push f4. I don't know, however, how strong it is. For example, if h6, my plan is to play f4. If pawn takes, knight takes e4, queen takes d4. Knight c5. Something like this. Probably black is okay here, because in some moments they have idea rook h4. So, queen takes d4 played Blackburne, knight takes c4 natural, queen takes c4, d5 he played. Very natural move, also probably queen e7 is reasonable alternative. Just defend the pawn and prepare h6, probably castle. h6, knight f3, queen c5, for example. Queen b3. I don't know if it is good to take on e4, because rook e1, queen f2 check, king h1. Knight c3 in which moment? Okay, so Schlechter played d5, very natural move, e takes d5. Queen takes d5. Queen takes d5. I'm not totally sure. Certainly black has several alternatives. And we can consider them. For example, even bishop d6 can be interesting. With idea to prepare a castle with queen e2. Maybe even this. Black has compensation for the pawn. What else? h6 is possible. Idea to provoke knight e4, because knight f3, queen takes d5. Very nice for black. So knight e4, knight takes d5, castle these positions. Black has two bishops, but white has some ideas. Rook d1. Okay, so queen takes d5 he played, queen e2 check. Now bishop e6, not ambitious move, but what is alternative? Bishop e7 looks like normal move, but castle. So black has problem with castle. After h6, rook e1 is coming probably. Not so easy. If castle, white can take on a7, then take on c7. Also possible to play here bishop e7. Idea that I will go castle, rook e8, and I will try to utilize bad position of queen. So for example, c4, castle. Now also knight takes d5. It's some kind of threat. But question is knight takes h7. C takes d5 and knight c3 is coming. So position is still complicated. I don't know what to suggest modern theory after knight g5. Why not queen h5 before c takes d5? Queen h5. In which moment? So this where? In which moment queen h5? Sorry. Can you explain me it? Ah, knight h7. Before take. Okay, but queen h5 white can play in any moment. So c takes d5 more logical because black cannot take on d5 anyway. Okay, queen h5 is possible, but I don't see special reason to hurry with queen h5. For example, if black plays rook e8, knight c3, bishop f6, probably queen f3, it's better square. And bishop f4 is coming, so. But I'm curious. I want to open encyclopedia and check what is recommendation after knight g5. So d4, bishop c4. Yes, I'm really curious what they recommend. So this is go d5. Okay. Okay, d5 is possible, but e takes d5. If knight e5, queen d4. Ah, okay, now probably bishop d6 is possible. With good compensation. So black can prepare castle. So probably this is possible, but it takes d5, queen e7. Yes, queen e7. Yes. And if queen, if king f1, knight e5. Yes, queen e7. You are right. Okay, but I want to check. Yes, queen e7. I totally forgot about queen e7. Bishop c4. Bishop c5. Just a moment. And bishop c4, knight f6. Check. D4. E takes d4. Instead of knight g5, d5. They recommend. Yes. After e takes d5, main move knight a5, surprisingly for me. So queen e7, they are not considered, but it's really logical move, yes. Yes, queen e7 probably strong move, yes. But they are not considering. They are considering only knight. Yes, they are considering queen a7. Yes, king f1. If queen e2 takes and knight e5, and black is good. Yes. So if king f1, they are considering knight e5. Queen takes d4, knight takes c4. Queen takes c4, h6. Knight f3, bishop d7. Knight c3, because not possible to take. Bishop b5. Long castle. Bishop f4, queen c5. With compensation. But why to play bishop f4? Why not bishop e3? Queen b4, queen b3. So what is this? At the moment white has extra pawn, and there is threat knight e5 to play. Okay, maybe black has compensation after bishop d6, but it's not clear. Okay, was question about king d2. King d2 is bad because queen b4 check. So this is not option for white. Okay, so he played knight e5 immediately. And okay, what happened in the game? They are considering, so queen e7 is serious move. Yes, queen d4. Bishop b3. Yes, Spassky played this. Interesting that Spassky played knight e5, bishop b3, after h6, f4. It was Fleger Spassky. Knight c5. Knight c3, d6. It's game of Boris Spassky. Bishop e3, take, took. Queen takes e5, queen e7. Slightly better for black. queen takes d4. What is this? Just d6. But okay, if d6, knight f3, it's playable position for white, in my opinion. If knight f3, g takes f3, and then knight c3, bishop e3. No, I have no stream schedule. I'm doing when I have mood for it. So, if knight c6, of course, white will not take. Now white is losing the piece, but after knight c6, queen c4 is possible. Nothing wrong for white. After d5, he takes d5 simply. Or not. For example, we can check this. Queen e7. And then knight e5 is coming. Probably white will lost a piece. Because after queen a4 will be bishop d7, after queen b5 will be c6. Probably this idea is unpleasant for white. Okay, so we can follow the game. So on encyclopedia consider this d5. E takes d5. Queen takes d5. h6 also possible, but h6 they are considering this castle. Knight b6. I'm not sure about knight b6. Probably black can just play bishop e7. If, for example, rook d1, simply c6 is my idea. If knight c3, bishop e6. Everything is protected. But they are considering knight b6. Queen e2, bishop is, sorry. c4, castle, c5, and white is better. Okay, so it was h6 line. It's possible to consider bishop e7. But now, after queen e2, recommendation of encyclopedia is bishop e7. Not bishop e, because after bishop e6, white has pleasant position. They always can take on a6 and play against weak pawns. So bishop e7 is a recommendation of encyclopedia. And after castle, bishop d7. After knight c3, queen c5. Okay, so I understand idea if rook e1. What is idea of black? I'm not sure, because if, for example, castle, white can take and then queen b4 after rook e8. I'm not sure that black has enough compensation for the piece. So rook e1 is interesting. But they are considering only knight c3. I don't know why. Queen c5. Bishop e3, queen f5 with equality. Okay. Not so convincing. Yes, rook e1 is more promising. I don't see. Okay, so probably d5 and queen e7 is the best with compensation. Okay, I have feeling that black can have good compensation here. For example, this, bishop d6, and castle. If check, okay, black can play king f8 or king d8. King f8, for example. My plan is bishop f5, rook e8. For example, this, d4, queen g6. I will take pawn back and everything okay. And now, okay, I'm not sure that h6 and bishop d7, probably h6 is correct, but now maybe queen c5. If white is taken, I will take, and then bishop f5. This is, looks like promising for black. And then non-castle with bishop d3 is threat, always. If queen e2, I have bishop e7, and if c4, knight takes d5. So probably this is the most promising. Well, but Schlechter didn't play queen e7, he played knight e5, so this. Bishop d6 is a solid possibility. And black certainly has compensation because position of knight on g5 is a little bit unlucky. For example, bishop b5, bishop d7, bishop d7, queen takes d7, castle, castle. And then rook e8 somewhere. Or queen f5 to prepare h6. Well, I mean c4. Queen f5, knight c3, however. Okay, it's still position for analyze. Not so obvious. Black has compensation, white has pawn up. If c6, just take. Should be two. Okay, but let's come back to the game. So he took on. Okay, he played knight e5 immediately, queen d4. Now, many options. Bishop e6. So now, surely, white should be slightly better because of possibility to take on e6. Castle is natural. Knight c3 natural. Queen f5. About queen f5, however, I'm not totally sure. Maybe queen a5 was alternative with idea to play this. And if this. bishop c5, compensation, rook e2 is coming. If bishop f4, knight d5. Also not clear, and c4 is coming. Yes, queen e7, d5 and queen e takes d5, queen e7, the most promising line, and I think there black has many resources to have enough compensation. Okay, so he played queen f5, knight takes e6, now rook e8 not possible because knight d4 is coming, so f takes e6, and looks like white is slightly better, but the question how realize it. Probably rook e1 was a reasonable idea, immediately attack this pawn. But in that case, bishop b4 is coming, and black wants to spoil the structure for white. Bishop d2, queen takes c2, so things are not so easy. So bishop e3 natural, a6, and bishop d6. So black has both pawn structure, but not obvious how to utilize it. Okay, let's try to think here. If immediately knight e6, white necessary to consider even this. Knight takes c7, rook e2, and this is some kind of compensation. I don't know, maybe white is better. Okay, but if take, it will be same. But now white is more flexible. White can develop his knight on d2. If they can, okay, for example, this. Bishop d6, knight d2. I don't know about queen e5. What is this? Okay, b1 and rook b3 is coming. White has dangerous attacks. So probably knight takes e6 was alternative, this idea to develop knight on d2. Okay, so because knight on c3 is surprisingly not so active here. So bishop e3, a6, good move. Rook a d1, bishop d6. Bishop b4 was also possible, but after bishop b4, probably bishop d4 was planned to prepare a3. So bishop d6, f3, queen e5, g3. Also, bishop e5 was possible with idea to attack white knight. If knight a4, knight d5. Okay, so he exchanged it. Queen f2, rook d6. b6 agreed to draw. Okay, so if b3, he wants to play rook c6. So good, quite good defense with bad pawn on e6. He organized Schlechter. I mean, he organized contraplay enough for draw. Chess is draw. Okay, maybe it's draw. Sometimes, but sometimes somebody wins or somebody lost. Okay, d4. Staying its defense. Schlechter with white, Blackburne with black. Bishop d7, castle. In this position, strong is d5 to play, and then to play c4. Oh, it's possible to take firstly, of course, but c4 I like more because this is acceptable for me. I will play knight c3, bishop e3, rook c1, and organize pressure against c7 pawn. Also, if knight b8, I will play c4 here. C4 here. Oh, of course, nothing wrong with system. Bishop d3 and then c4. Looks same like in Hungarian defense, for example. After bishop c4, if black plays bishop e7, Hungarian defense, d4, d6. One of the most promising options for white is just play d5, close position, and after knight b8, immediately played bishop d3. For example, castle immediately not so strong, because knight f6, bishop d3, knight d7, c4, knight c5, just in time, and white cannot go bishop c2. So white can, but it's sharp and unclear, so with compensation. But after knight c3, it's comfortable game for black. It's my game against Anand. I was black. But so bishop d3 is strong, and now after knight d7, c4 is strong. So white plan is simply knight c3 and then a3 b4 probably, and always after knight c5, white has bishop c2. So, and you ask about bishop takes c6 line. Where bishop takes c6? So Schlechter played castle. Classes. Puede ser. Posición, supuestamente. After castle, e takes d4, knight takes d4. The best for black is g6 now. Knight f6 is natural, but not the best. g6 is the best, and now we have idea of black. So they wanted to utilize advantage, not playing h6, a6, bishop a4. So if, for example, image a6, bishop a4, white can always take on c6 with comfortable position. For example, I will show you. If a6, bishop a4, d6, d4, oh, bishop e takes d4, knight takes d4, so white can play c4 and knight c3 and c5, and very promising position. Because after b takes c6, they not lost tempo for bishop b5, a4. But if no a6, bishop a4, so g6 is good. Bishop g6 is good, and now if knight takes c6, b takes c6, and white should lose tempi, important tempi for bishop a4, and this is a very important difference. If white is not taking on c6, also this position is quite comfortable for black. Knight f6, knight c3, knight takes d4. This is passive line. Bishop e7 is better, but after bishop e7, rook e1, castle, bishop f1, white is slightly better. It's my game against Lajos Portish. I was white. So knight d4, bishop takes d7, knight takes d7, strange choice. Queen takes d7 is more natural, by the way, but anyway, b3, bishop b2 is pleasant for white. But now black has also problem with development of pieces. So many moves was played with knight. It cannot be a good idea, because now black has no development, and white has attack e5. Resign. Okay, so bad game for Blackburne, good game for Schlechter. Okay, what else? Another Spanish. d3, d6. Blackburne, white. g6. Hablo español, sí. Knight f1. Okay, of course, after Here, after d6, black has positional threat to play b5 and knight a5. So for white, of course, knight bd2 is not a good idea because of this. So for white, it's better to play c3 or c4. There are two options. Same idea. Okay, different pawn structure, but same idea to avoid b5 and knight a5. For example, after c4, bishop e7, h3, castle, bishop e3. Now Oleg Romanishin played knight a7. A little bit artificial move with two ideas, b5 or c5. If knight c3, c5, but anyway, white is slightly better here. Or c3, g6. So knight bd2 is bad move. Oh, inaccuracy, but according to modern theory, it's bad idea. G6. So now c3 is correct, but so he allows this idea, and now black has very comfortable position because white lost his Spanish bishop. Okay, bishop b7 is not necessary, so black can do another plans. For example, castle, knight g3, takes. Knight d7 is possible to prepare f5 or knight e8. So bishop can be useful on c8 sometimes, especially against pawn on d3. Against pawn on d3, quite often bishop is passive on b7. Against pawn d4, more perspectives. But okay, h4 takes. So white is preparing attack in king's flanks because bishop is misplaced somehow. d5. h5 was possible to block position. Probably he doesn't want to allow bishop g5. But okay, it's unclear. And then knight h7 is coming, so d5, h5, queen d6. So black is trying to do some actions in center, and also because of this, they not allowed to play long castle for white, which is important for attack. If, for example, bishop d2 now to prepare long castle, queen c6 is unpleasant with double attack. So bishop g5, rook d8, knight d2, h6. Okay, about h6, I'm not sure. For me, something like rook d7 looks like more natural, queen e6, but okay, he played h6, bishop e3, bishop c8. He idea is obvious, they are defending against this because this knight g4 is coming. So this is point of bishop c8. So he took an f3. Very logical alternative was to play f3 immediately. If black block position, okay, now black has permanent weakness on f5. So white can play long castle or short castle. Probably slightly better for white because weakness on f5 and also bishop g7 is passive. But okay, it's playable position. Rook f e8, bishop f8, queen c6 is the best plan to prepare bishop c5 future. So main problem, bishop on g7. So he took firstly and now played f3, but now h5. Now white has no square f5 for his knight, and knight on g3 a little bit strange. So castle, queen c6, bishop g5, rook d4. Of course, black has other opportunities. a5, a4 is possible plan. Or bishop e6 firstly, to have control c4 square. If king b1, now it's possible to play a5 and try to organize attack against white king. Totally possible, but he played rook d4. He prefers to play with pieces. Knight b1, bishop e6, queen e3, knight d7, knight d2, knight c5. Again, totally possible was to play a5. probably he afraid something with bishop h6 and then bishop g7, queen g5. But okay, black also has threats, so it's not so clear which attack is stronger. Probably attack of black is stronger here. Played knight e5, king rook knight e2, a5, so he is ready to give exchange. Okay, knight takes d4, e takes d4, d3 is coming, so it's dangerous for white. Bishop h6, logical request. Now black can try to play bishop f6 with same ideas to keep his bishop from exchange, but he played rook d6, g7. What we have now, g4. So attack, counter attack. Looks like white is better here, at least for me. For example, b4 is possible, knight a6, only reasonable move for black. Just take, knight takes this, knight c3. I have feelings that threats of white is stronger here. It's double-edged position, but maybe I'm not totally right, but I want to open g line. If g5, rook g1, if not, h takes g6, I think white king is safer than black one. But he took immediately, now is queen a8. What is this? Very strange. Frankly speaking, it looks like black should be losing here. But of course, he wants to play rook a6 and create some threats. But for example, if h takes g6, he wants to play rook a6. If queen h6, something like this. This queen a4 check. This queen c4 check. But maybe it doesn't work, however. Okay, rook d7 check. If king e3, queen c5 check. So knight d4 only move. E takes d4 check. And still question, what is this? King f2. Totally possible that white is winning here, however. Well, d3 check is only move. King g2. If queen c2, rook d2. If queen, no, rook d2, rook takes h1. Okay, king g3, it's winning. Okay, so we can check if this is forced. So h takes g6, very natural. Rook a6, black has no choice. And now queen h6 is my proposition. Very concrete. So I want to mate. Okay, king f8 is possible, but it should be losing because black has no very serious. Of course, white should play precisely, but probably something like this. So rook a1 more or less forced. Okay, king f8 is possible, but very likely that this is losing move anyway. So rook a1, king c2. So queen c6, knight c3, game is over. So bishop takes b3, check, it's forced. Only now black has choice, but which choice? Okay, queen c4 is the most natural. Don't see special alternatives. It looks like everything is correct. And white can win here. I don't see how black can survive. Looks like. So it was possible. Just take on g6 and win. But he played h6. So, okay, probably it was time trouble and he afraid, but he afraid to miss something. But objectively, I don't see serious contraplay. White has other moves. For example, here, okay, if image uh, for some reasons queen h6 doesn't work, also queen g5 is possible with same idea. But queen g5 in same line, it doesn't work probably because queen is hanging on g5. And also queen b3 is possible and rook takes d. No, queen b3 and rook takes d1 is not possible because rook h8 is winning. This is winning. So if queen c5, knight d4 anyway. But now rook takes d4. Rook takes d4. Rook takes a1. Rook takes d4, rook h8 anyway is winning. Well, this is important idea. So black has no time for quiet moves. After e takes d4, king f4, and white has pawn up and should be winning as well. For white. Or also, maybe white can win simply to play knight c1, for example, just to stop threats. If, for example, rook a1, king c2, queen c6, queen c3. So, if white wants to win technically. If rook takes g6, just rook g1. So, also, queen g5 now it's a very serious threat. Or queen c5. Okay, it depends what black is doing. So, I'm sure that white is winning here. Of course, they need to they need to place precisely. Okay, the most direct is queen h6 anyways. But probably Blackburne have seen some ghosts here and afraid. So he played h6, blocked this line. Now rook d7. Now black has good contraplay because his king is safe. And they agreed to draw. Final position probably even slightly better for black, however. After king takes h7. Okay, very likely drawish, but okay, queen d3 probably. Okay, maybe not better. Okay, so Blackburn was very close to win, but then suddenly he didn't realize his chances. Sicilian, e6, knight b5, bishop f4. Modern line is knight takes e4. And now knight c7 is one option. Other option is queen f3. And only after d5, knight c7. Complicated variation. Firouzja played something like this with black. If a3, modern theory is bishop c3 and d5. And now if bishop d3, black is just taking and playing bishop d7, and then castle, for example, bishop e3, castle. If king e2, f5. If bishop f3, knight e5. This idea, bishop b5. Bishop d3, knight e5. It's a question how simple this white can take. But if b3, for example, long castle, bishop b2, knight d4 is strong idea. If bishop takes d4, bishop c6, and this is drawish. In line e takes d5, e takes d5, bishop d3. Last word of theory is bishop g4. If f3, bishop h5. If bishop g5, queen b6 check. If king h1, knight e4. Now if knight takes d5, knight f2 is coming. So knight takes, d takes, bishop takes, queen takes, rook b1, queen a3, rook takes b7, rook c8. This position looks like slightly better for white, but modern engines promise black draw here. Although for me it's not so obvious. For example, queen d7 is possible. How black can make draw, I don't know. Probably queen a6 and then bishop g6. Rook is attacked. Something like this, but okay, it's better to check with computer such kind of position because looks like white is better after b7, but black are playing this line. But he played e5. Also interesting line Dubov played. He played castle. Dubov with black, I mean. Okay, he played, actually he played bishop c5, but it can be the same. I mean this, and Daniel Dubov played knight e8. Queen d8 is another theoretical move, but white is slightly better after just castle, and if a6, knight d4. So Dubov played knight e8. Queen takes e7, knight takes e7, castle f5. So this is fresh idea from Dubov. White is slightly better, but it's playable for black, especially for blitz. Well, after bishop b4, black can do same. So because after castle, white has nothing better than bishop c7 and bishop d6, and it will be double line again. e5 he played. e5, it's not a good idea according to modern theory. Bishop g5, very natural. a3. Gracias. Okay, so white is totally winning here. So after bishop g5, okay, this position already quite bad for black. So white has clear plan, castle. h4. So this game Joseph Blackburne lost without special fight. Okay, what else? Scandinavian defense. G6. Okay, this line is already refuted by Fischer. So Fischer played bishop f4. Here it's the strongest. After bishop g7, queen d2, and black cannot take on d4. So black should play something like this. But after bishop h6, white is better. It's my game against Vlad Artemiev. I won with white. So bishop f4 is the strongest line. Firstly was played in game Fischer-Robach, bishop f4. Okay, but now he played c6. Now knight h6 is the best way for black, and to prepare knight f5. So knight h6 is strong. It was idea which Robach played, but Fischer prepared move order which not allow bishop f4, and now knight h6, bishop e5 can play it. Black is forced to play f6 or g8. It's somehow unpleasant. So queen d2. Now knight h6 is strong. But okay, so queen d2, knight d7, bishop c4. Okay, bishop c4 is possible. Bishop takes g7. Of course, very aggressive try here could be h4 to prepare h5 with quite promising attack. If, for example, takes bishop g4, knight g5 is coming. If queen takes d4, knight e4. Also necessary to check. Probably black can defend successfully here. So Schlechter took. Now after h4, black has h5. Knight e5, knight bd5. Another very logical move here was queen d6 to prepare bishop e6, because obviously bishop on b3 is more active than bishop c8, so it's very standard, and also prepare rook d8 in future. Knight d5, knight took on d5, not necessary, but if castle, black can play bishop e6 to prepare knight c7. Again, they want to exchange the bishops. C takes d5, so f3. He's trying to restrict his knight. Queen d6, c3, knight g8. A little bit strange move, but Blackburne playing this strange move. What he wants. Castle b6, f4. F4 is strange move from Schlechter, so I don't see special reason for f4, because after f4, e4 square will be weaker, so much more natural for me looks like just play this, and then rook e3, rook e1. If bishop a6, for example, okay, even a4 is logical. Start to play with another flank and try to utilize bad position of black bishop. But after f4, okay, black has contraplay, so f4 is a strange move for me. It's not necessary, so rook fe1, white has pleasant advantage. h5, now black has good perspectives, because e4 square, they have total control, so f4 was anti-positional move. Exchange it. Knight f3, what is this? So what about queen takes f4, probably knight d2. No, don't understand, frankly speaking. Why not to take? Because how white can take pawn back is not clear for me. If knight d2, queen g4. If h3, queen g3. If rook f3, queen h4. White cannot take on e4. Okay, probably mistake in text. It's possible, but I don't know. So queen takes f4 looks like. Maybe now if this black can take with queen. Okay, maybe queen g3 was this idea. Okay, take. And queen e5 intermediate check. Because if queen takes c7, rook f8, always defended. But queen e5 is not so good for black. But okay, so I can also play. If I play this, g3. And now queen g4. And rook f4, queen d1, it's draw. Yes, if something else, knight takes e4. So queen g4, knight takes e4. Now if d takes e4, queen e3. It's possible. Question how convincing this, but white has an idea to play h3. Also f5 may be possible. I'm not sure that white has enough compensation for the pawn. Because rook f4 not possible, and black is ready to play queen h4, just improve his king. So strange moment, but f5 positionally strange move. He allows come back to e5. So queen takes f4. Was strong. So f5 after several moves they. Okay, what else? Or something. Knight f3, c5, e3, d6, d6. So after d takes c5, he surely wants to play queen a5 check and then take this queen. It's not bad for white. White can play this. If queen takes c5, a3. It's bad before. If d takes c5, probably bishop d3. Back. Bishop d3, knight c6, castle, bishop g4. So he allows d takes c5, d takes c3. Both are playing very modest in opening. Queen c7, e5. Very creative. This position looks like slightly better for white, but he plays c4. In my opinion, knight h4 is a good idea because knight takes d5, e takes d5, and bishop takes h7, and g4 is coming. So knight goes to f. So tactically it works. Or knight takes e4, same. And positionally, knight goes to f5, while c4 square can be useful for white knight in future. Let's c4, knight a6, a3, queen d7. Now knight h4. So now he utilizing same idea, bishop g6. Of course, white has excellent version of King's Indian. Knight f5 he played. Very logical plan was simply play rook b1 and b4. Just play in flank where white is better. Knight f5, knight takes g6, normal move, knight c7. Also now, before b6, rook b1, and somewhere white wants to utilize b line. And also in future, white can consider plan queen d1, bishop c2, bishop a4. utilize that black bishop is not on d7. Rook e1. About Schlechter, okay, I'm not so familiar with his games, but okay, I can prepare something from Schlechter for video. Knight f1, b5, b3, a5. Suddenly black is trying organize contraplay in queen's flank. Okay, now it's logical. So he cannot do it with pawn on e4. But now pawn d5 is not protected, so black wants to play a4. a4, now knight a6. Bishop d2. Not obvious moment, because for example sometimes in such kind of position black has beautiful knight on b4 which is not doing anything, but probably the problem after queen d1 e4 immediately, and here not so clear also, because if bishop e4, knight takes e4, rook takes f e4, bishop f6 is possible. Queen takes f5, less precise after queen e2. It's unpleasant pin. But bishop f6 is possible, and then black will take on f5 with comfortable position. So I think e4 is problem for white, not knight b4, because after knight b4, bishop b1, white is better. Black knight is not doing anything, and white is ready to improve the position with knight g3 or g4, knight g3 even. So bishop d2, knight b4, bishop takes b4. Now it's not obvious. So positionally for black, better to take with c pawn, with idea to prepare queen c7, knight d7, knight c5, or bishop d8, bishop b6, bishop c5. So, but there is also tactic in chess. But still, I like c takes b4, because if c5, simply queen c7 is possible, and I don't see anything good for white here. Because if c6, just knight takes d5. If bishop b5, okay, I can just play something. Rook b8, and this position is good for black in my opinion. b3 also coming. So c takes b4 I like, but okay, it's not easy choice as well. A takes b4 and g4. Rook b8, queen b3. Blocks pawn with queen. More natural, however, to block this pawn with knight, in my opinion, because in general knight is better blocker than queen. If you play this, rook a5, queen a7, so white defended pawn and they agreed to draw. Okay, frankly speaking, white could try to do some activities to prepare g5 or to prepare f4. Not easy, of course, but black has no plan, but Schlechter played h5 and agreed to draw. Okay, anything else? Knight f3, g6. So it's interesting that with strange move order, because now white has many good ideas. At least white can just take and bishop f4 and play exchange Slav with dubious g6. But now we see that Blackburn plays Schlechter system against Schlechter and h3 modern white. Aronian played this with white. Idea that after bishop f5, white can take on f5 and play g4 and organize attack. The modern reaction is c5, but okay, now castle and white has large defense with two tempi, although not easy to have advantage, but it's playable position. Knight b castle. C takes d5, of course, possible to simplify position, utilize factors that knight already on d7. Correct place for knight. King's Indian, b4 and bishop a3. b5, bishop a3, you mean King's Indian? What is the question? So this is King's Indian. Are you interested with this line or what? This line you mean? Now this b6 is main theory. After a4, rook e8. Idea to prepare if a5, c5. This is this idea of contraplay. It's complicated position. And if queen d3, knight f5. This is idea. If e takes e5, f4. Okay, this is another topic. We can see Slav defense. Schlechter system against Karl Schlechter. Castle, d takes c4, knight b6. So it looks like white has excellent version of Grunfeld. Played bishop b3, probably bishop d3. It's more logical to prepare e4 as soon as possible. So white wants e4. Probably black should try c5, d takes c5, knight b6, d7, and try to prove that this is compensation, but it's not obvious. White can fight for his extra pawn, and not so easy to prove that black has enough compensation here. And also, if this, white can simply play bishop d2. If not play c5, white is ready to play e4 with a very comfortable advantage. So I like bishop d3 here. But okay, so bishop b3 played Schlechter, bishop knight b d5. Okay, so now if compare, at least white cannot play e4 immediately. This is disadvantage of his position. Of course, position is good. White has many. Okay, King's Indian I will write for myself. King's Indian, b4, bishop a3. Yes, passive Grunfeld, but okay. So at the moment, black is trying not allow e4 immediate. Queen e2 is natural move to prepare e4. Also possible rook e1, same idea. Of course, nothing wrong with just bishop d2, rook c1. It's another possible plan. So at the moment, white is slightly better. Somewhere white can consider knight takes d5, bishop b4, if c takes d5. Okay, so white has many alternatives. So queen e2, bishop f5. Bishop d2. Modest move. White could play more active, more risky, however, but more active g4. It's principal way. And e4 next move. If this, bishop e4, knight g5. For example, if this, bishop b2, and black cannot take knight takes c3 because queen d2. So rook c1 is coming, and white has strong center. Okay, g4. Okay, it's risky somehow, but principle. If not knight takes c3, e4 is coming, and white has strong center. But okay, Schlechter doesn't like to play knight c3. Okay, now black has some kind of contraplay, because if bishop takes knight, this. Although white has idea, rook fc1, for example, if knight c3 to take with rook, if c5, this is possible. And now g4 probably wins a piece. This idea rook c4, or rook c4 immediately, or even rook c7 is possible. So this is dangerous for black, of course. For black is safer to play like bishop d7. But okay, Schlechter choose. Bishop takes d4, rook d1. Yes, it's also possible. Yeah, right. Also strong. But okay, bishop takes d4 is very, very dubious for many reasons. Yes, rook d1 is also one. B takes c3 with connection with bishop d2 is strange. So usually if black has bishop on d7, they should take with bishop in any Sicilian or English opening. And also white, if bishop on d2, it's better to take with bishop. So if you are planning to take with pawn, it's better to put bishop on b2. Rook fd1. Knight takes d2 is natural to play with two bishops. Or if rook takes, to play bishop e4. Okay, not immediately bishop e4 because knight g5, I mean queen a5 firstly. c3 is attacked, so white has no time for e4 because queen takes c3. And if rook c1, bishop e4 is possible. This idea to exchange, equalize. Okay, bishop e1, rook d8, knight h4, strange move. In my opinion, more natural looks something like this. If c5, c4, for example. If c takes, e takes with idea g4. So black has no time for bishop h6 because g4 wins a piece. I hope. Bishop takes c1. So if rook takes c1, black has queen f4, but it's not enough. This is good for white. Of course, after c4, black should play something like b6, probably with playable position, like b6. It's not worse. Knight h4, it's a little bit strange, because I don't like knight on h4. So I would prefer knight d2, for example, if play with knight and exchange. But a perspective knight on h4, it's not so clear for me. He plays bishop c2, knight d6. Okay, but now f4 he played, so difficult to understand. Okay, this is some kind of Grunfeld, which wasn't popular in this time. Okay, more natural was to play e4, e5, knight f3, takes, rook e8, and now maybe even e5. If knight f5, bishop b3, something like this. f4 he played, c5. rook ac1, c4, very risky because black is giving strong center, b5. So this kind of positions should be better for white. And now a4 he played, a5. So white is certainly better and totally possible to start attack with f5. I don't see any contraplay for black here. So c3 pawn is protected. So of course c4 is big positional advantage. So black should play something else. f5 is normal move, for example. Not allow e4 or Botvinnik Capablanca. Okay. But okay, so c4, e4, it's very strange how Schlechter lost it. Bishop c6, knight f3. So why he is not playing f5, it's big mystery for me, because white has okay, maybe not completely winning, but surely better and without any contraplay. So f5 is very, very natural. So knight f3, queen b7, knight d2, f5. So now black played f5, and now not so easy, because black has planned knight c7, knight d5, e6, rook f7 or rook e8, bishop f8. So now black has his positional trumps, so its situations very far from clear. White should do something. Maybe e takes f6 was the best idea, and if pawn takes, to play f5. If rook takes, I need to think. Maybe bishop g3. But okay, it's double-edged position, like d6. Black has contraplay, so white lost many tempos without playing f5, and now after f5 situations very far from clear. Probably white is not better anymore. So let's see, rook db1. Maybe bishop h4 is logical move somehow. Idea to prevent knight c7, but it's questions that this is impossible. Maybe it's possible, such idea, because if queen e3, knight takes d1. So maybe this tactic works. Okay, so rook db1 he played, threat knight takes c4, rook a8. He defended. Again, I would like to play bishop h4. I don't know, immediately or after rook takes, maybe this, bishop h4 was idea to activate my bishop. If e6, I can, but okay, e6. If I swing my bishop to b4, black anyway has knight c7, knight d5 with good prospects. Knight f1 he played, knight c7. So knight takes c4 doesn't work. d5 and knight f3, okay, it's possible, but it's not clear. Okay, so from here, rook a1, so f. Very strange that he didn't play f5, and now after f5, situation is changing in favor of Blackburne. Knight d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5. So black has planned to prepare b4, white has no special plan. Bishop h4. Okay, maybe white should play somehow more accurately, something like this. Queen f2, try to prepare bishop f3 and just just keep the position, because after bishop h4, now more easy for black to push b4 in some moment. He resigned. Okay, so strange game somehow. Many strange decisions, but okay. Not so easy to play. So this game. Reverse appears. Knight e2. More logical to take, in my opinion, and knight e2 and castle and f4. Try to prepare as soon as possible, but here they simplify it very quickly and agree to draw. This game is not so interesting, so it looks like I considered all of them already. Yes, I considered. I'm checking if I considered all of games already. This, this I considered this. This I considered too. King's Gambit I considered. Okay, so I considered all of games between Schlechter and Blackburne, so more or less equal fight, as we can see. So they were engine free time, yes. The bishop e2. Okay, so bishop d6. Interesting that against Grishchuk I lost very quickly with black. I decided to play d6. He played d4 and I took and g6. So my idea was to play bishop g7, castle, something like Pierce or Philidor defense. Something like this I wanted to play, but in this position g6 is a terrible mistake. Maybe not everybody knows. Grishchuk played bishop g5. Not bishop g5. Grishchuk took on c6. After bishop g5, yes, he played bishop g5. h6 now I cannot play because he can take and knight b5. I'm losing c7 pawn. So I played bishop g7 and now he simply took. He played e5. He took and simply castle. This position is already losing for black. Because if king e7, bishop f3, I cannot defend c6. If bishop b7, rook e1. So after bishop e2, okay. Bishop c5 is a dubious line or just bad for line for black because knight b5 is strong. This is mistake. Bishop c5 is mistake for black. It's game Grishchuk Ponomarev. So d5 is good or bishop b4 is good, but after bishop b4, correct idea. Okay, in the game after castle, knight d5, black Schlechter played bishop e7. I don't like it. So normal is to take and knight d4, or here also possible e4. And black has no. Now this is possible. And black is losing pawn. Yes, so e4 is bad. But knight d4 is good, and knight takes e5 is forbidden because rook e8. If not knight takes e5, white has no way for advantage. If c3, for example, black can simply take and bishop e7 and d6. So if white wants to take, he needs to take here, but now queen g5, knight g4, queen takes d5, and also if knight e3, queen e5 also doesn't look promising for white. I mean, as a fight for advantage. Also, you could consider bishop d3, and then c3, bishop c2, d4, something like this. Also question if black can try this. Maybe it's possible as well. Draw. Or queen takes e5. So maybe castle is possible as well. White can think about knight c4 and knight e3. What is this? If f5 c3. Okay. It looks like good compensation for black. So something like this. Bishop e2 line. Yes, maybe here not so simple. What about f5? It's an option. Yeah, it also looks promising for black because f4 is coming. If knight e3. And probably f5 is even stronger than queen takes d5. This position is slightly better for white because of two bishops, but nothing special. It's a little bit similar to game Benko against Larsen. Benko against Larsen was different. Was opening e4, e5, knight c3, bishop c5, knight f3, d6. It was game Benko Larsen. Now f4 it's king's gambit. Knight f3, d6. Now d4 takes knight f6. It's totally playable position for black. And then castle rook e8 is coming. So Benko played knight a4. I think it's correct move. Bishop b6 played Larsen. Knight takes b6, a takes b6, d4, queen e7. Bishop d3. Knight f6. Castle, castle. And now, in my opinion, white is slightly better, but he played c3. In my opinion, rook e1 is more precise. White is slightly better. Idea, if knight c6, to play d5, if knight b4, bishop f1. My pawn is already protected. Of course, black cannot take on a2. Benko played here c3, knight c6, h3, and now black can try to take the pawn. Knight takes d4. It's okay. It's possible, but maybe no special advantage for white after bishop d7. Larsen played h6, something like this, and then knight h7. But in my opinion, okay, c3 d4 is solid plan, but rook e1 is better plan. If knight c6, d5, and c4 as soon as possible. If e takes d4, knight takes d4, knight c6, okay, I can play c3 without losing tempo for h3. I will need to put pawn on f3 and defend firmly my pawn e4. So this type of position looks like more pleasant for white. And if black allows, so knight c6, I'm happy to change the structure. Knight b4, bishop f1. For example, if knight a6, c4, if knight c5, knight d2, and I'm ready to play b4 now. Okay, maybe even start with knight d2, more flexible, to avoid bishop g4 ideas. So bishop c5, for this is a little, knight c6, but knight c6 this line, it's looks no promising for white. Also, my neighbor Oleg Romanishin likes to play this position with black. So knight c6, f4, and d4. Steinitz gambit, or this is Pierce gambit. And now knight takes d4 is the best for black according to theory. With idea of queen takes d4, queen g5. Queen takes d4 is mistake, so bishop takes f4 is main move. And now black has choice between bishop c5 or bishop g7. Both is possible. Black has piece up, white has some attacking chances. So, tricky position. d4 is Steinitz gambit, and now queen h4, d6, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop f4, long castle, king e3, queen h5 is main theory. And now white has choice between h3 and bishop e2. If bishop e2, the best way for black is g5. If knight g5, knight f6. If h3 takes, queen g6. Game. Barley Portish, black has good initiative. Okay, so for today it's enough. Thanks for your attention. So, are there any wishes for my next streams? f4, knight f6. Aha, this gambit. Knight f3, f5. Okay, f4, knight c6. First of all, white can play knight c3, and now knight f3 or d4. So, okay, knight f3, f5. Okay, I played this against Nakamura, and I played very quiet line with white. I played just d3, d6, knight c3, knight f6, g3, g6. This kind of symmetrical position, and later I won, but not because of opening. This position is more or less equal, but I remember that according to theory, the most promising is e takes e5, e4, knight e5, knight f6, knight c3, something like bishop d6, and from now I don't remember what is the best for white here. Maybe also d4 is possible, I don't know, instead of knight c3. d4 probably d6, this, if g4, h5, something sharp. So if knight c3, remember bishop d6, why not d6? I don't, because now d6 white can take. And g4, and now after h5 white has g5. So bishop d6 is the strongest, I remember, but from here I don't remember what is theoretical recommendation after bishop d6. But I can think, is it possible to take? Because if knight takes e4, queen h5 check, it's bad. g6, f take g6, black has no good defense. So if knight takes e5, this is certainly good for white. If bishop takes e5, my idea to take, and now I have quite pleasant choice between queen h5 or queen g4. So what is better? Queen h5 maybe. g6 is bad because f take g6. If king f8, I can play simply d3, and looks like white has excellent attack. Probably queen e7 is possible, however. Yes, maybe queen e7. Here it's not so easy. Lasker Schlechter, it's a good idea. Okay, I can consider it. Schlechter. Yes, probably queen e7 is the best. And what is this? This is not clear how to play with white. Queen e7 is good. But anyway, what is, for example, d4? If knight takes e4, queen h5 check, what black would play, because king f8 lost immediately. Knight g6 check, and this, and bishop c4. king d8, knight f7, also bad. So g6, I can take with pawn, because if I take with knight, black has several options. For example, knight f6 is possible. Also possible queen f7 maybe. So I should take with pawn, and my threat is g7. But what is this? Castle? Only move. G takes h7 probably. Because bishop c4 is possible, but king h8. And black is ready for knight f6. Okay, it must be some theory, yes, but I don't remember what is this theory. It's quite new line, so I don't think that encyclopedia suggests something, but I can check. f4, knight c6, 4, f4, knight c6. They even not consider knight c6 such a move. Okay. Camera is frozen. Okay, so queen e7, d4, knight d4. Sorry, it's okay. Hello, hello, please write me something. Still frozen. Okay, so it's enough for today. Aha, picture. Here. Okay, and board you can see variation. It's more important. Okay, so for today is enough. I will check this line as well.